It feels good, man. It feels good.
Well, Tiff.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you. We're the Spot Real Talk -1. I'm Tiffany, and that's
And of course,
Ron.
I'm
Hey, Ron.
Ron. How
Hey.
are you?
It's a pleasure to meet you. Doing my research on you, you're doing a fabulous job as Jenny, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Definitely.
You are. You're becoming like the next Angela Valdez. We're like, but I had a question for you about your relationship with Sax, because last season you ended the season with, it looks like you guys were gonna get serious and be in a committed relationship. But this season, it looks like, Jenny is kind of doing the rope-a-dope with Sax. So I just want to know, like, what are your true intentions for him? Do you really care for Sax, or are you just using him and the end goal is just the case?
Yeah. It's complicated. Part of the great thing about working on this show is like they really create such three-dimensional characters that are complicated and have a lot of conflicting emotions about things and put themselves into situations that are really messy. And so for her, like that finale scene with them in bed, and he's like, "I'm gonna be your CI," and she's like, "Oh my God, thank you." There was definitely a moment. I, as the actor, see that as getting caught up in the moment. Because there's never been a moment that we've seen yet where Jenny fully trusts Sax. She doesn't trust him, and she has good reason to not trust Sax. He's already gone through her bag and shit. Like, he's untrustworthy. She's smart. She knows who this guy is. And they actually dated. They have a history. They actually dated for real before Ghost aired. So at some point with Sax on Power, he was dating Jenny. And it didn't work out well. It didn't go well. It ended poorly. And on his part, I will say.
Of course.
But she was like, "This is too much. You're messy." And he was like super jealous, which you can kind of see sprinkled throughout over this season and last season. Just like these moments of like, he's kind of like obsessed and worried about losing Jenny all the time. And that's super not hot. And it's also like not helping the trust factor. Like if he can't trust her, then why is she trusting him? And he's going through stuff. So anyway.
Yeah, that's a no-no. Going to the phone.
Thank you. She knows she can smell it. Whether she knows literally exactly what he's doing and up to, I don't know, but she definitely senses it. And so she knows that he could play her if he wanted to, but she's not going to let that happen. And in order to not let that happen, she can't sleep with that man. Not while he's her CI.
Right.
Like she's the only sane. It's like the only sane option. Like he is literally her criminal informant. Like if she were to
for saying that.
Everything, right? And like it already, I think last season when they were sleeping together, she probably blames the fact that she was sleeping with him for the fact that she lost that case. Like if she wasn't so distracted with this man and what he was doing, like maybe she would have seen the fact that Braden was gonna mess up her case for her on the stand. Like she just can't have the distraction. And so she bundles up all of her emotions and her feelings about all the people in her life and her relationships, and she keeps them locked in a little box because she believes that's what she has to do in order to put people in jail, to actually make it so that Tariq and Monet stop killing people. She has to have like blinders on, right? And so you really get to see her lean into that this season. She's just not taking she's just full throttle, like blinders on toward the goal. No one's gonna mess this up for me. She's the mastermind, like has all the secrets, and obviously like it's power, so those secrets are going to come out and it's going to make things even more complicated. But deep down, what I will say is when I'm playing Jenny, I sense a ton of love for Sax.
Okay.
She cannot deal with, because if she did, she would fail. She believes that. So they have a history. She knows she can't trust him. So it's very complicated. But in another life, in another world, like maybe if these two people were not in the business that they're in, maybe it would work out. I don't know. But she can't let herself go there.
But thank you for saying that he's your CI, because that was the point that I was making every week in our recaps. because at first
Well,
when they said the CI, our
well,
people kept
oh,
saying it was Effie, and I said,
no.
guys, she said she's referring to Sax. Sax is the
Okay.
CI.
Okay, but let me throw this in. Okay, this is my little monkey wrench to Tiffany. Okay, now, Jenny, or Peyton, I should say, your character is a very straight-laced type of character. But the question is, how is it that she chose to have Sax, a prosecutor, as a CI? Isn't that a contradiction in term? Because a CI is a criminal informant. And
Well,
so,
yeah, he's no longer a prosecutor. He is now a defense attorney working with Davis, who we believe is working as consigliere to Monet and Tariq,
mhm,
which is very illegal.
yes.
So, yeah. So she's hoping, the position that Sax is in, and what I think the position that character's been in for how many seasons it's been now, 9 or 10 seasons that Sax has made it alive on this show. Part of the reason I think he's kept himself alive is because he's scrappy. He's a survivor. Like he knows how to play two sides at the same time. And Jenny knows that he knows how to do that. So that's also part of the trust issue. But yeah, the criminal informant of it is Sax is working for Davis, who is actually a criminal.
Okay.
He's straight up a criminal at this point,
Okay.
and they're trying to get him just as much as they're trying to get, the whole organization.
So Cooper better watch his back.
Yeah, he'd better. I mean, we both know it was dangerous. Like in the finale of last season, he was like, I know that if I do this, I'm putting my life in danger.
Mhm.
But I want to do this for you. And I want to prove to you that I am the kind of man that you need me to be. And unfortunately, at this point, at least, Jenny doesn't see him as that man. And the fact that it's taken, like, there was a break between that finale episode and then where we start off, there was like summer, right? It's been months actually since we see them picking up again. And they're already not having sex. They're already not, having that part of their relationship anymore. And so during that 2 months, what I imagine just happened is that they were caught up in the moment, and maybe there was like a week of like, maybe this could be a real thing. Who knows? But it very quickly became obvious to Jenny that he hasn't brought her anything. He's literally working in the office with Davis, and he still hasn't given her any information. And so that's just going to feed into her distrust of Sax. He's the one telling her that he can get Davis, that he has all this inside information, and he's still not able to like be a CI. Like he's her CI, but he hasn't given her anything she can use. So yeah.
I'm laughing because on our show, when we did the recaps, I said I felt that Jenny was playing Sax because I felt like he was withholding the sex because he was not giving her the information that she wanted.
I mean, that's definitely the sort of toxic dynamic they share together. Is that it's always this sort of transactional relationship for them, which is how they function, because these are two people who are sharks in a sort of shark world. Like the criminal justice system, it's rough in there, and it's like it can be pretty toxic. And so these people have had to survive within that system and on the prosecutorial side of the system for a long time. And in order to do that, you sort of have to justify some decisions and choices that are probably not great. But you can justify anything if you think that you're doing the right thing, right? If you think which we see in all of these characters on the show. That's part of what's so great about it. It's like everybody, it's really clear with the writing. You can see the reasons that people are going after the things they want. And unfortunately, like for them to get to the goal, it often is through means that are very, that are not great, that are bad. People die, people, yeah.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier that Jenny is very complicated, but she's also complicated not only in her professional life, but her personal life as well, as we've been pointing out. Now, is there something to your relationship, whether personal or working, with Monique Gabriella Kernan, aka Blanca? Could there be more than what we see? Is there more to meets the eye? Could there
that be? I don't know, but that would be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I love that. But I'm pretty sure Blanca's married, right? I think
she is. She is.
Well, Well,
But we'll see. I mean, look, that hasn't been spelled out what Jenny's preferences are exactly. So who knows? But at this point, they're like bosom buddies. Like they're really like their relationship is maybe one of the more healthy relationships, even though Jenny's keeping a lot of secrets from Blanca. You know, because that's what the season is. But yeah, I think that right now, the fact that there are these two women who are also like no nonsense, don't take shit. They can really like step into their power together and like have this dynamic duo thing going on. I loved being able to do that and getting to explore that with Monique. And who's to say where it could go, but definitely that like really fun partnership is gonna, you'll see it evolve more as the show goes.
Okay. Good answer.
Yes. I wanted to ask, in light of Whitman's death, sometimes that happens though on Power, the overzealous police, the Greg Knox, the Whitmans, they end up getting out of here. And I was just wondering, do you think Jenny will proceed with caution, or will that make her even more determined to avenge, or, to take Tariq and Tejada's down?
I think based on what I could say is that based on how the near death of Lauren hit Jenny last season, like she felt responsible for that almost happening to the point where she brought Lauren into her own home. Lauren is literally staying in her family's home because WITSEC doesn't act fast enough to protect people sometimes. There's literally like so much paperwork, all the blah, blah, blah. So she's taken her in and sort of imprisoned her, which is the bad side of that coin. But she's doing it for what she believes is gonna like keep her safe and keep her alive. And she's not wrong. Like if anybody knew that Lauren was alive, she'd probably not be alive for very much longer, right?
Right.
One could assume that she's got a target on her back. So oh gosh, remind me what the question was. I just went off into
you were answering the question, just asking about whether this is going to make you even more overzealous, or are you going to proceed with caution now that Whitman?
Yes. So based on that, the reason I bring that up is because you can see the result of that in the start of the season is Jenny is going all in. She's not messing around. It's made her even more quote unquote obsessed with winning this case and getting Tariq put in jail, and the Tejadas as well. And so I would imagine that Whitman's death, as much as it could feel like the walls are starting to close in on this team and they're losing people, they're not going to be intimidated. Jenny's not going to be intimidated. She has her goal. She's going to do whatever she possibly can to get there. And the journey to getting there is going to get more and more complicated as her emotions and what happens start to be even more in conflict with each other, which is the most fun thing to play. Like you want your character to get in as much trouble as possible. So you can definitely expect that. Like it's going to get tighter and tighter and more scary as we go, but she's not gonna let up. Yeah.
Okay, so Lauren, now you left her at your home, family home, with a couple of cans of Spam. So should she really?
She's full of drama. That is not true. I brought her Scrabble. I've given her frozen dinners. Look, she's got fresh fruit. What does she want?
I don't know, but I guess the main question is, can she really trust you to take care of her?
Absolutely not. She can't trust anybody. And if I'm Lauren, I wouldn't trust me. I mean, it's interesting because like there's a chance of, Stockholm syndrome, right? Where you think that like the prisoner could start to really like, look at the captor as someone that they care about and like. But I think Lauren is a little too savvy for that, honestly. I think people underestimate Lauren, that character, a lot. But she's actually a smart cookie in a lot of ways. She's just not street smart, She didn't know what the hell she was doing. I think Paige said she was like, I think she said this on Instagram. She's like, she's not a rat. She's a mouse. She didn't know. she's just a cute little mouse who got caught up in it. And I'm like, that's
Mhm.
100% true. So yeah,
Because she liked the boy. Because she liked the boy.
she
The
liked the
wrong
boy.
boy.
She happened to like a boy who was murdering a lot of people. Like,
Mhm.
and right, he cannot stop. He's killing everyone. So yeah, poor thing. That's what I'll say. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't blame her for not trusting Jenny at all. And definitely, I mean, there was actually an episode in the last, or a scene in the last episode that was cut where you got to see a little more of a vulnerable side with Jenny in a scene with Lauren. And sort of, she explains to Lauren basically why she brought her there and why she cares so much. She wants to, like, she's here for the greater good. She really wants to put bad guys in jail. That's what she's always wanted. She hates, I forget, I wish I remembered the line, but she loathes criminals. She doesn't want people in danger, you know? And so she feels like a little bit of a superhero, which is super like high ego of her to think, but that's how she does her job. She's very good at her job. She actually like almost never loses a case. Like losing the Tasha case to a federal, you know, to them taking it away from her is one thing, but then losing the Tariq case last season with Brady ruining it for her was a huge hit to her ego. And obviously that's involved with this too. But yeah, I mean, you'll see. There's a lot of fun stuff coming up with Lauren and in her relationship with Jenny. But hopefully one day they'll release these deleted scenes that we all know are like awesome, but you can't make it in sometimes. It's okay. Happens.
You know, something that I saw, and correct me if I'm wrong, I was watching this show with my son, and one of the DEA agents or whatever with Blanca looked like he was Junior Angela's nephew. And I was like, are they introducing that on the show? I was like, oh, I didn't notice.
Where did you see him? Where did you see him?
He had on a DEA jacket.
Pretty
and I think
interesting.
And he was like he was reporting to Blanca or whatever. And
that would be wild.
My son was. He was like, "That's him," and I was like, "No." I said, "No, he's in college." He was like, "Ma, it's been some time since the original power has been off, and I think that that's him." So I'm like, wait a minute, is he working with the feds now, following in his auntie Angela Valdez's footsteps?
He's definitely around. You definitely didn't miss him. He was there. He's involved somehow. And you getting to see what he gets up to is going to be part of the fun thing of the season. But yeah, good eye. You saw it.
Shout out to my son for that.
Yeah.
He peeped it and put me on game.
And it took me a while too. Like I've obviously watched Power multiple times, but it took me a minute when he had shown up on set. I was like, I know that face. I know this guy. Why do I know this guy? And then I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. So yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun twist. That's going to be a fun twist.
Now, I see darkness in the horizon here because you brought in Sax with Blanca, and you know there's a hated relationship between the two. How do you keep the two of them from killing one another? Because Blanca did come out and say she may have to put him down if he doesn't straighten up. So how do you do this? How do you work this out?
She just, you know, there's a lot of mediating that happens. Obviously they have, you know, they're pretty spicy when it comes to the two of them together. But I think the ultimate goal here, everyone wants to win the case. And so what these group of people I think are pretty good at doing is the similar thing that Jenny does, is like they can put their feelings to some extent out of the way to get the job done. We have to. It's a part of it. Like with Whitman's death, if that took us all out emotionally, we wouldn't be able to go forward, right? And so the way that they believe, like kind of like how a surgeon works, right? Where he can't be thinking about this is a human being's life in my hands in order to do the job. You have to just look at it like it's a job and there's a way to get it done. And in their eyes, the more emotional you are, the messy it can get. And obviously there's going to be some emotions coming to a head when those two people like interact again. And I think that's going to be really fun for people to see because they're not, it's not a secret how they feel about each other, especially how Blanca feels about Sax, you know?
Right.
So it's ripe for like a great dynamic. And I'm just part of the tripod, just trying to keep everybody let's be professionals here, which is, what Jenny is very good at that, I think. She's the master of keeping her emotions repressed.
Okay, excellent.
Well, I know that you have plenty to do, and we certainly appreciate you speaking with us today. And I just want to ask one last thing before we wrap up. I noticed in my research that your father is Lorenzo Lamas,
Yeah.
and I am a fan. And
You
I see
are?
that, yeah.
Which did you watch? Renegade? What did you watch?
Yes, and other things, and that I'm not going to say without dating myself. Yeah, so yeah, so I am a fan, and I see you inherited this talent, and I just wanted to know, like, did he impart any type of advice for working in the industry and acting or anything?
Well, my relationship with my father is pretty complicated. He actually didn't raise me. My mom raised me. He left when I was 2 months old, and then I met him when I was 5 and 6, and he was sort of in and out of my life. But my mom is an incredible television actor, and she had a career for 35 years. And so I had been on set a couple times with Lorenzo over the years as well, but a lot of my advice and my understanding of the industry and how it works came from my mom. But what I did learn from my dad is that, you know, eh, it's easy to get caught up with the success of things and like how things are going. And I think it's important to remember that an actor's career, anyone who's freelancing, is going to be an ebb and a flow for the rest of your life. And it's about finding stability and healing within yourself and grounding yourself so that you can have a well-rounded, beautiful life and not be just sitting by the phone and waiting, for the call to come in that you have a job. Like, you got to create your life and make your own life happen. And so, yeah, I think in witnessing, his life and his relationships and stuff, that was definitely something that I learned would be really important to me and that I wanted to make sure I did.
Oh,
So what's next for you?
Well, I'm actually have a podcast that's airing right now. It's called the Free Body Podcast.
Mhm.
I started it a few years ago during the pandemic. Actually, I have a chronic illness. I get inflammation is a problem in my system a lot of the time, and so I wanted a space where I could talk to people about their relationship to their bodies and the moments where we feel really connected to our bodies and the moments where we feel disconnected and sort of everything in between and how our bodies inform our lives and our experience in the world. And that has led me to a lot of somatic work, which is body-centered therapy, essentially. And so the current season that I'm airing right now is actually sharing something very vulnerable about myself. I last fall got my eggs frozen. And I did it
I
alone.
read
My
that.
fiance happened to be out of town on a job during it. So during that process, I decided that I would record the experience because I felt very isolated when I was doing it. And it was it was very overwhelming, all the information and dealing with all the hormones and the injections and stuff. So I just needed something to help me process that experience. And so I ended up recording me doing the injections every day. So there's about, I guess I'd say, I think it was 13 or 14 days of shots. And then after the surgery and everything. And what I realized when I was going through the process is there isn't a lot of information out there about this because it is a very private thing, obviously, for good reason. But I wished that there was a little more information out there about the variety of experiences because everybody's body is so different. And this process is so different for different women and people with uteruses that I thought that months later, now here we are in April, and I've just started putting out the videos finally, but that is currently airing. So I am sharing that experience, everything I learned in the hopes that other women and people who are looking into this process, whether it's IVF, fertility treatments, egg freezing, will learn a little more and it'll hopefully feel a little less overwhelming just hearing someone else's experience doing it by themselves. So
Where can
that
we?
is, yeah, Free Body Podcast. Check it out. It's available now everywhere. It's going to be airing over the next few weeks every Monday. And I post the videos, the vlogs I made on the Instagram, which is at Free Body Podcast on Instagram.
Excellent.
That's wonderful.
Excellent.
And we'll tune in. I'll definitely tune in.
And
Great.
our fans certainly will. Definitely.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm glad. I hope that it reaches the people who need to hear it, you know.
Excellent. Very
That's
good.
wonderful. Thank you for speaking to us today. We had a lot of fun talking to you and everything. I read you're a yoga instructor, so hopefully you're having some classes on the set with the team.
I am. Look, I'm working on it. I'm like, who wants to do yoga at lunch, you guys? Let's go.
I would be there with bells on.
And I can certainly see why Sax is so enamored by you. So you know.
Thank you. Thanks so much, you guys. It was lovely to talk to you.
It was
been a
lovely to
pleasure.
talk to you too. So thank you and enjoy your day.
Definitely.
Thank you. You too.
I used to stick around, definitely not for too long. But boy, you got me hooked and made me wanna write this song. Thought all guys are the same, apparently I was wrong. Let me take you somewhere where we could be alone. You know how people say it caught me unexpected.